going to share my life into a couple of places. Wow, I'm actually showing up every day. Showing up every day and delivering whatever is coming through. So, yeah, let me just share this. So Lioness Portal group. In that group, we are having, and I'm sharing it into my personal group. So in that group, we're having a Facebook Live challenge, 21-day Lioness power. Of course, my phone is dying. What else is new? Just have to plug it all in. So day 5 prompt is about a challenge. If there was a challenge that we overcame and that turned or helped us become who we are today. So that was a prompt. So if you come on, say hi to me because I can't see anyone or anything. Actually, or if you're on replay, tell me that you're here. So sharing a moment that you faced a challenge, overcame it, and helped shape who you are, who you have become in this moment today. So I was reflecting on that. A couple of things came up that I wanted to come and share about. I have been journaling, so I'll share some of this. I had some pictures, actually. Nicole, if you're watching this at some point, know that your prompt was spot on, because I was reflecting exactly on the challenge that made me into who I am today, and then you came up with this question, so I know you were feeling me. And yesterday I was showing Suzanne the pictures of my childhood, and I actually have them all over here. I want to show you some pictures of my childhood. Are there mostly of me me as a little girl, me with my grandpa, me with my grandma. There's a story behind all of this, and I'll share it. There was one picture that specifically stood out for Suzanne and me. It was my grandpa and me just sitting in a forest. This forest and nature. Forest to me is like Mother Nature. Yeah, so when I was laying these photos out, I was just feeling a lot of sadness. It's interesting how we feel a lot of sadness when we go into our childhood memories. My hair is really fuzzy, oh well. And my bun, I don't even know what is happening. Oh well. So I'm wondering, why are we often sad when we go into our childhood memories? Or maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me, because I know we all have our own energy. Some people are happy, some people are sad. My daughter, who is a beautiful artist, an adult, a beautiful young woman. She's a poet. She's an incredible human being. She used to cry. I don't even know if she does anymore. I should ask her, but she used to cry whenever she would think of me. So it's like a thought of her mother would make her cry. So maybe it's just the energy of sadness that is present somehow on a generational level as well. My grandma, when I think about it, my grandma used to cry a lot with me. My present, it's almost like this sense of sadness or guilt or something that we all struggle with so much. You know, we all carry our own essence, our own energy, the essence of the soul, and often it is sadness. And sadness isn't necessarily negative, it just is present. So yeah, you know, I feel like I'm surrounded by these beautiful photos, and I want to share with you this photo again. You know, the photo of my grandpa, and this is actually not my blood grandpa, he was my grandma's second husband. And me just sitting, looking at him looking at me. And you know, my sister Suzanne, who pointed this out to me, she said, you can feel the energy of this photo. You can feel the love. You can feel the love through this photo. And yeah, I could feel it. So when we look back at our photos of childhood, there's all these emotions, and that can be so different for all of us, whether it's happiness or sadness, or even anger, frustration, regret, like whatever it may be. My grandparents are both gone, and it was really nice to connect to the memories and the energy. I journaled a little bit about it. And the story that I wanted to share today that was a challenge throughout my life is the story of abandonment. It's like the abandonment issues or abandonment wound. And oh yeah, something else came through, but I'll wait on that for a moment. But anyway, you know, the message that I'm sharing today is how the challenge that I have experienced in my life has turned it, or I was able to rewrite the story and see it as not a reason, but a support in becoming who I am today. So overcoming the abandonment for me when I was not even 2 years old, maybe 20 months old, my mom, a beautiful, gorgeous woman, and I'm so grateful for her. She got in a motorcycle accident when I was little, toddler, and her leg almost got cut off by an accident, and it took her 5 years to recover. So instead of amputating her leg, which a lot of doctors back in those days would do, there was a doctor that actually decided to help her and save her leg so she can have a functional leg. But in order for that, it truly took like a scientific approach. This was late 70s, and it's so weird to think about the 70s, like that time really existed. And, you know, I didn't have my mom for 5 years, from the age of almost 2 till about 7 years old, or after 7 years old. I didn't have my mom. And so growing up, my grandparents were both architects, and they were traveling across the country, the Soviet Union, creating these beautiful buildings, architectural, historical buildings. And they couldn't take care of me, so they placed me in this suburban orphanage home. And so for a long time later on, I had this abandonment wound that I lived with for a very long time. And this abandonment wound actually had this like really deep control over my life. You know, I would hold on to people, I would attach myself to people. People would leave me, and I would feel this abandonment wound and have a broken heart. Or maybe I was always like needing and seeking this love from the external force because I felt like I had this abandonment wound. So, you know, and always being this extra sensitive, especially around people that I truly loved. And no one taught me anything about how to deal with these wounds until I taught myself, or it was just open to me. But looking at that picture and feeling that picture, I truly realized that how much love my grandparents truly gave me. And they were in no position to take care of a little young toddler when this trauma appeared in my life and in my mom's life, and my dad was not around at all. And so I had to be placed in this place that would take care of me. It's not I don't even know, it's an orphanage for living parents that couldn't take care of their children, but they could come and visit them, you know, however, on weekends or once a month or once every few months, however often they could, without the child ever going home, but the child would live there and the parents or grandparents would visit them. So that's all I remember is my grandparents visiting me, bringing me ice cream or whatever they did. But what I'm realizing, and I have already realized, is that this trauma of abandonment actually was a gift for me. It allowed me to grow up in this beautiful forest. I'll show this picture again, this forest in Russia. Anyway, yeah, this forest in Russia that I feel like raised me. And when I truly started connecting back and remembering myself, truly who I was, and connecting to the natural magic of nature, of Mother Earth, of the forest, of the trees, of the plants and animals, little by little I realized this is where my true magic comes from, is from me being raised in that environment, in the forest, by the magic, not by my parents or not by my grandparents in the city, having to go to daycare while everyone is working, coming home at night. You know, none of that was happening. We were truly raised outside in the not wild forest, but there was no city. I don't remember any city. All I remember was the trees and the river, in the rivers, and the rain puddles and forest and magic. A lot of magic was happening there. The women who were working there and taking care of us, they were magic. And they fulfilled all of our dreams, and they took us into the forest, and we wrote letters to magical creatures. You know, when I truly think back about that, I'm realizing how much magic that actually was. It was a gift. The abandonment wounds was actually a gift. And feeling into it, I knew my grandparents had to do that for me. They didn't abandon me. In fact, they loved me very much. And so the story that I'm rewriting from abandonment is actually how aligned everything happened, and how much love I actually received from that time of my life. So seeing and remembering the love that actually still exists. When I look at these pictures of my grandma and my grandpa, I know how loved I was. And that's all I remember, is their love. Whenever I would be with them, I never remember any anger, any frustration, any annoyance. only patience and love and kindness and explanations and teachings, and not the environment that a lot of children grow up in, with parents that are constantly working and tired and don't have time for the children. The people that raised me had all the time in the world for me because that was their job, and they created this beautiful childhood, which from about 2 until 7 years old is when that was happening, like these really important years of our lives. And then of course when I came to live in the city with my mom, I remember I was happy, and I had my mom back, and but I also see how much conditioning and programming that put on my life. Here's my cats. He came to say hello. Hi, Pan. So yeah, I just was feeling into the forest raising me, the magic of nature raising me. Also remembering my grandma always crying. As I grew older and older, an adult, I left to live in the United States when I was 20 years old. And then when I saw my grandma, it was kind of rare in between when I would come back home and visit, and she would just cry and cry and cry. I know that she did what was needed. I'm grateful for these memories and for this challenge to be able to rewrite it into a beautiful story of grandparenting and love. I know they gave me all they knew how, and they loved me so much. So yes, becoming who I am thanks to that story, or thanks to that story of my life. You can say hi to me if you're here with me. I see someone is here with me, but I don't know who you are. So also what message that came through today was a very powerful message. And I've heard this message before from others, but it only beginning to click now, like really recent. And it just makes so much sense. So, I've always heard people say, you just have to make a decision. You just have to make a choice to be yourself today, now. Like, what would you act? How would you act if you all of a sudden magically became today who you always wanted to be? And all we have to do truly is decide. All we have to do is decide to make that choice, to be who we are. And it's so true. I don't think it doesn't land right away, or you don't always understand right away what it means until you begin showing up. You just have to begin showing up. So this is what it's about. That's landed for me today. Actually, when I was journaling, I wrote, all we have to do is decide to be who we remember ourselves to be. All we have to do is decide to be who we remember ourselves to be. So what I'm recognizing is that if we're still afraid, or if we're still doubting ourselves, or if we're insecure, or we worry about what other people will think of us, it just simply means that we haven't fully remembered ourselves. And in order to remember ourselves fully, we must undergo these emotions of self-doubt, of fear, of worrying what other people will think. I mean, how else are we going to get through it? We must feel that. But in order to feel that, we must show up. So if we don't show up, how are we going to know what it feels like to overcome these fears or doubts? Hey Sonia, I see you're here. It's nice to see you. Hello, beautiful. So, yeah, I was sharing a little bit about the challenge that turned me into who I am now. And then this message came through as well. All we have to do is simply decide who we want to be. And by deciding who we want to be, or we decide because we remember who we are. So if we continue to, oops, I was playing the forest music. I don't know if it's going to come back. So if we continue to doubt ourselves and to be afraid and to self-doubt and to worry about what anyone thinks, it truly means that we haven't fully remembered ourselves. And in order to remember ourselves, we must show up. And so me showing up like almost daily for the past 26 days, there was some days in between that I've missed, that I didn't miss. It was just like I didn't show up. But showing up regularly on a daily, if this is a must, we remember ourselves more and more. And as we remember ourselves, we also feel those fears and doubts. And as we feel those fears and doubts, they flush through us. And so the next day becomes easier. The next day becomes easier. And then the following day, and then the following day. And then this is like, oh my gosh, this is who I am. I remember myself. I no longer care about what anyone thinks. I no longer have a fear. I'm just going to show up and speak. Or I'm going to show up and write. Or I'm going to show up and turn on this switch. Because that's what it takes to remember who you are, to continue to show up. You know, and the switch is always there for you. That's what I had to realize. The switch is always there for us. We just don't always flip it. We don't always choose to flip it. And so maybe sometimes, maybe not very often, we'll flip the switch and then we show up as who we are and we remember who we are. And for one day we act as if who we are, you know, but it's not always 100%. It's not always on a daily. So it's not always on a daily that we're going to be able to truly be who we want to be. And until we show up daily, until we show up 100%, not until then, we truly can fully live and remember who we are. But it all starts with a choice and a decision and with today. So however you show up, however you are called to show up, and it might look completely different for you than anyone else. Show up at your 100% every day. Flip the switch. Remember who you are. Move through the fear. Move through self-doubt. Move through the old stories. Let the challenges of your memories, of your past, become the empowering stories who shape you into who you have become today. And I know that this sense of abandonment that I've lived with for a long, long time truly showed me who I am today. And looking back, I can see that I am love. I was loved and I am love. And I'm here to bring more love and to reawaken more love. And so that we can all remember who we are and we can show up as love and to reflect that love onto others and to empower and to maybe inspire someone to also make that choice to show up as love. So this is my message. Sonia, thank you for being here for this part of it's so interesting how some of these messages, they are sitting inside these stories, and when we begin to dig a little deeper into the stories and memories, these messages are born. So yeah, thank you for being here, and thank you for anyone who's watching. Whenever you're watching, I'm sending you all so much of my love. May all of our practices truly benefit all of humanity. Many blessings.